Okay, I just want to go over and um, see if I can simplify the Google site that I'm asking you to do. So historically, it's always been a PowerPoint. I prefer Google Slides as I feel, or I'm sorry, Google Sites as I feel you have a little bit more um, flexibility to adding content. So leave the standard one, promoting child development and learning. Now, in the assignment, it says identify and summarize standard one. It's a brief description of evidence, either your educational experience or your professional experience, a brief analysis of what you've learned, growth and development of early childhood education, or how these artifacts demonstrate competence in NAEYC Standard 1. So I am all for that assignment, right? Now, some of you are like, well, hold on a second. Is it not the same thing that we're adding? So when you add it, just kind of think of for 1A, summarizing that 1A. So developmental milestones. So how are you using them? When do you use them and how often are they updated? And speak to why they're important. And then 1B, knowing and understanding multiple influences on early development and learning. Why is this important for children and families that you teach slash serve? And then name some influences, abilities, family structures, trauma, nutrition, etc., that play into the development of learning. 1C, using developmental knowledge to create healthy, respectful, supportive, and challenging learning environments. So through assessment, I understand where the children are developmentally and areas for growth, and then you expand on that. So you are summarizing or describing these areas, and you're adding your own educational or professional experience. So that's the way that I've always tried to explain it. Um, I've tried to do it both ways, as some people really are receptive to the assignments, and others have a better understanding after I explain it another way. Either way, you are describing these areas. The second way is just you're going through each element. And then you're going to add artifacts, okay? And so your artifacts would be developmental milestones. It could be an image of Bronfenbrenner, or an image of if you wanted to use Maslow, and you wanted to speak to how if children are homeless, they would have a harder time learning because they're not meeting their basic needs, are not being met. Like they're always in that survival mode. So there are a lot of images that you could add to this. Um, and then you could also um, support it through like classroom images of um, your children engaged in activity. So it could be multiple artifacts. Okay. Um, let's go to standard 2. We're just going to briefly go over each one. Standard 2 is building family and community relationships. So this is knowing and understanding diverse family and community characteristics. How do you know this? Advancing equity statement is a great way to kind of um, speak to this. Supporting and engaging families and communities. So, how have you done this in the past, and how has it benefited your program? Involving family and communities in child development and learning. How do you do this? Do you do take home activities? Do you encourage parent nights? What are we doing? And then now you're going to add this information: family newsletters, community flyers, pictures of you doing activities or events for parents and communities, like a family fun day or a community fair or whatever that might look like. 3, Observing, documenting, and assessing to support young children and families. So this is understanding goals, assessments, observations, all of those things. Everything to do with assessment is in standard 3. So this is where you would speak to how you are assessing children, what assessment or documentation you're using, how assessing children helps you create appropriate goals, or not even appropriate goals, but identifying the teaching strategies you should use. So, how are your assessment tools correlating to your teaching strategies? And then here you're going to maybe do an image of the teaching strategy that you have. Um, you're going to maybe do an assessment piece that you're familiar with, right? Everyone has like little assessors that we use, documents. You can add that in there. Effective approaches. This probably is the one where everyone's like, I need help with this. But don't overthink it. Again, in the modules, you have examples of artifacts that you're going to put in here. But this is understanding positive relationships and supportive interactions, knowing and understanding effective strategies. And then this is the one that everyone gets confused on because 4C is worded. I don't like the way that 4C is worded, but it's using the broad repertoire of developmentally appropriate teaching and learning approaches, and then reflecting on your own practice to promote positive outcomes. So let's go back to 4C. All this really means that using the broad repertoire is that you have knowledge of how children learn. So a you have knowledge on the content that you need to teach. So for an example, children need to learn through play, right? So that they need to learn through play. You know that they need a social emotional support built through relationships. You have songs, you have math skills, you have all of the content necessary to create developmentally effective lesson plans, and strategies to reach all children. That's all it truly means. I mean, that's kind of broken down into a very broken up, sketchy definition. But that's all it means. It just means that you come to the table knowing how to meet children's needs. If one thing doesn't work, you know how to get the same behavior or learning outcome, and maybe you just approach it a different way. So just kind of think of that. All right. 5. This is the meaningful curriculum. So this is understanding content, knowing central concepts, inquiry tools. Everyone, don't overthink this. All we need to know is that you understand how to um, how to create curriculum. So then you can either talk about, how do you understand it, or what do you understand? How do you understand children learn? How do you incorporate language and literacy? How do you incorporate all of these in different areas? So just speak to that. And then 6 is becoming a professional, identifying oneself in the early childhood field. So you can talk to, if you're participating in ROAR or SOAR, those are student based or student driven councils for the ASU PBS grant or scholarships. But speak to how do you involve yourself in early childhood field? Do you Are you an active member of AZAEYC? Do you attend professional development? How do you uphold the ethical standards? Do you know the ethical standards? So look at your ethical standards. I uphold the ethical standards by, and then explain it. If I were you, I would might say, because there's 5 areas in the ethical standards, I might speak to how you uphold them for children, your peers, your families, your community, and also your place of employment. Um, Engaging in continuous collaborative learning and informed practice using technology effectively with young children. I know some of you are in EED 111 right now, um, and technology is not going away. We have this conversation all the time. I'd love to say that technology will never be used, but that's not true. So I feel like we need to, there are positive uses of technology in early childhood, and we need to engage in that. All right. Last but not least is 7, and this is early childhood experiences. And honestly, I think you should put your field experiences in there. I think this would be a great place. However, it is not a requirement. But if you were ever to show this to someone, um, if you ever wanted to go for a place of employment, or, and drop a link about who you are, absolutely, Standard 7 should be included in there. It's all about your experiences. And if I was an employer, I'd want to see where you've been and how you apply your knowledge. I hope that this helps, but let me know if it doesn't. Thank you.